Deadshot, the man who never misses, or at the very least is not supposed to miss. A lot of the comments dealt with the utilization of the character, but also what form of Deadshot is the best. The one who is an uncaring mercenary who will do anything for a paycheck, or the one that makes decisions and choices that best impact the future of his daughter. So, as per usual, let's get into the comments and see what some of you had to say. So the first one we're going to look at is Isaac is a person. I'm sick of the daughter's backstory. It's become generic and stale, and I prefer the origin where he accidentally killed his brother far more than him doing it all for his kid. Deadshot's daughter has become such an important impact to the character that I do think a lot of what his brother once did for Deadshot, being a driving force for Floyd's life. Whenever you look at Deadshot, it all becomes about, oh, well, he does this for his daughter. There's no real alternative in that situation. And I think it's because the daughter-father relationship has been, for better or worse, shoved in people's faces over the past couple of years, rising in Deadshot's popularity. And that is a lot of what anyone is going to remember on why or who Deadshot is the way he is. And it's not as if that origin is not canon, because I'm pretty sure he did still kill his brother. But I think the most important thing about this comment, and even based off of other comments that were similar to this, is that the impact of killing his own brother, a bullet right between his eyes, it's not talked about enough, and it's not focused on nearly as much as maybe it should be when you compare it to his situation with his daughter. Toganium, I miss the John Ostrander version of Deadshot where he would throw himself into dangerous situations because he had so little value for his own life. I really wish adaptations of Deadshot and more recent comics would remember this aspect of the character. Ostrander is still my favorite writer for the character, by the way. That is very interesting because that particular moment in the character's evolution, he was very selfish, but selfishness usually determines when a person, requires things for themselves more than they care about the well-being of others. But in this particular situation, he was being selfish with his own life. He didn't care what really happened to him. And I guess you could kind of say Deadshot is kind of like that today, considering being on the Suicide Squad, working with many different people, putting himself in situations where he is now selfless and putting his body in extreme danger, not for the sake of him not caring for himself, but for the sake of knowing that what I do today is for my daughter, and when I get out of this, I'm going to go see my daughter. He makes every action in accordance to how it might better his daughter. Deadshot seriously used to just be a guy who was all about, I'll do whatever I can for a quick paycheck. But over the past couple of years, it has heavily become him being a family man of sorts. And it's whether or not you like that type of thing. And you can clearly tell that some people do, some people don't. Now, this next comment, there was multiple literally worded exactly like this. And there was even comments back to back that literally said the same thing. We're going to go with Gamer BTW that says Deadshot works better as a Green Arrow villain than a Batman villain. Now, I think there's two reasons why people might feel this way. And even if I am right in my form of thinking, that doesn't mean the people who do feel this way are wrong in any way, because I do also believe Deadshot would make for a good Green Arrow villain. Number one, I think it's because Batman already has so many villains, and on top of that, he has so many of the most popular villains in existence. Why do we need to give him another one in Deadshot and flat out classify Deadshot as a Batman villain? And number two, I think it is the fact that Deadshot is a ranged combat villain. Green Arrow is a ranged combat hero, that both of these characters would be able to have a standoff or a fight from distances, shooting each other with bows and arrows and bullets. For me, personally, I think Deadshot works the same way as Deathstroke. I would like to say that Deadshot maybe has 3 arch enemies back Batman and Green Arrow being two of them, but at the end of the day, he is a mercenary, and for hire at that. He will go after anyone, anywhere, as long as it pays well, and he's justified in doing so. Acer. Deadshot should be less involved with the Flash and other superheroes that have powers. Let him fight grounded individuals that he can actually shoot. This is a very interesting comment because it always comes down to a power scaling discussion. We always think to ourselves that these characters, to live amongst some of the top dogs, to be a threat to some of these godlike heroes in the DC universe, their potential and their power needs to rise. It needs to be upscaled. Deadshot has many feats in his history, but the one I always come back to, this is a guy who took a shot at Barry in Injustice 2 while running super speed, and he hit him in the leg. I do agree that some of these higher tier DC heroes, Deadshot shouldn't even really be touching them or getting anywhere near beating them. He should probably be relegated to a character who deals with lower tier level characters. I understand the idea is that he can hit any shot from any angle, any range. If he's going to be able to do something like that to Barry Allen, what's to say now he wouldn't be able to be a Justice League threat? There needs to be a solid range for Deadshot, and I just don't think taking on Justice League characters outside of Batman is where he should be. And even Batman is giving him a lot because I don't think he's in his range at all. If you can pair him up with other villains going after heroes, that's a different story. He definitely has a very versatile skill set, but not on his own. Now let's look at two comments with two differences of opinion. Mr.ThemeSongs says Will Smith was unironically good, and Dane1 said I prefer comic book Deadshot over the race-swapped Will Smith. Personally, I do think Will Smith was really good at the character. There's just one line in that entire movie, and I don't necessarily think it's his fault. I think it's the writers, it's Warner Brothers. It makes me laugh and cringe all the time. It's the, what are we, some sort of Suicide Squad? Something to that effect. But overall, good performance. Now, with the whole race-swapping conversation, because this was mentioned a lot as well, I'm personally not the biggest fan of it. If you already have a character who is so popular, race swapping is not going to make that character any more popular than they already were. If anything, you are now egging on the people who are going to be angry about race swapping to now be angry about the decision you made in race swapping that said character. Race swapping can be a really tricky thing because now you get the brownie points from the people who really want to see stuff like that happen. And then for the people who don't like it, they act like they get attacked for the decision they made. And for those people who honestly have a justifiable reason to not like it, they are now made to feel as if they are some sort of villain. If you really want to do something like that, why not just make a brand new character? Or take a character who is black and who isn't getting used as much in the comic books and make him popular. However, overall, I don't hate the fact that Will Smith became Deadshot because I think he did a good performance. In a lot of recent history, Deadshot has been portrayed as a black man. So I think this character has now become a character who could be white or black. But at the end of the day, I really don't believe there's any need for race swapping. Truly, it causes way too many arguments and way too much anger on both sides. And still to this day, I haven't heard one good reason or argument for race swapping. I'm gonna add another two comments together. The first one here is from Dennis Connolly. I like Deadshot, but he and the Suicide Squad in general have been overexposed in recent years with little to no good stories. He should fade away for a bit. And then Brian Antonetti. If they ever decide to kill Amanda Waller, it should be Deadshot who pulls the trigger. I agree with both of these comments. Now, where I'm going to start here is I have gone on many rants in this channel, especially when I first started out a couple of years ago, talking about how the Suicide Squad seriously doesn't sell and it doesn't have a big audience, but for some reason, Warner Brothers pushes it like they do. 2 Suicide Squad movies, an animated film, a whole ass video game that completely bombed in less than a week. The Suicide Squad is a team that I think is fine for a 1 or 2 time use, but anything after that is far too redundant. I don't think them operating as a team has too much to offer the DC universe that other more viable teams could do to take their place. And I think they're also a team that is a bunch of characters who, well, they don't know how to progress their story any further, so they take ragtag characters and throw them part of a misfit team. And then B, they're also characters that hardly ever get used, which also means they don't know how to use them, and they make a Suicide Squad out of it. And I feel like that is what has been done with Deadshot for so long, is they don't know how to use him. He at one point was just a cold-blooded mercenary who then becomes some sort of semi-leader to the Suicide Squad, who also has a daughter, and you figure out that everything he does is for the betterment of his daughter, who you want to turn into somewhat of an anti-hero who at times protects people, at times doesn't. It's just way too much flip-flop for the character. So I agree, the Suicide Squad should absolutely be put to rest for a long time. Coming with that is maybe the end of Amanda Waller, where I also agree with the comment, Deadshot should be the one to take her out. I don't know where that leaves the character. Maybe it would be okay for Deadshot to also take a back seat for a long time as well, so he can go be a father to his daughter. But the Suicide Squad has been operating for what I believe is to be way too long, and Deadshot should be the one to put an end to it. Here comes another 2 comments with, once again, differences of opinions. Zekrel, my hot take is that Deadshot is better than Deathstroke, not in terms of skill, but in terms of character. I just find Floyd more likable than Slade. His backstory where he idolized his brother but tragically accidentally killed him made me sympathetic to him. He has a daughter and tries to take care of her, and he's one of the most likable Suicide Squad members in my opinion. When he and Deathstroke were hired by Riddler and Joker in the War of Jokes and Riddles and pitted against each other, I was only rooting for Deadshot, even though I knew Deathstroke could easily kill him. And then for Gwyn Corley, honestly, he's boring. He feels like a knockoff of Deathstroke. I think there's some things about these 2 characters you can't really look past. Maybe sometimes they look a little too similar. They also use similar weaponry, at least in the context of being able to use guns. They're also hand-to-hand fighter melee specialists, Deadshot being pretty good, but Deathstroke being on a whole nother level of amazing. The fact that they're both mercenaries, or how about their names being somewhat similar? Considering after this point in the video, I had to re-edit myself in which I caught myself saying Deathstroke instead of Deadshot, subconsciously not picking up on it. There is many things about these characters that feel similar, but 100% it is their determinations and what drives them to do what they do that is very different, especially nowadays with Floyd being a family man. And you could say, yeah, Deathstroke has a family as well, but that is nowhere near what concerns him. What concerns him is to always be the best and to beat the people who get the better of him. I personally like Deathstroke more than Deadshot, but I do agree, if you are looking for a character who's going to maybe make you a little sympathetic for them, you're gonna have to go the route of Deadshot. If you're looking at someone who's going to be able to give you good fights, is going to be conniving and calculating, and is also going to beat down some of your favorite characters, you're gonna go look at Deathstroke. Now, for my unpopular opinion on Deadshot, it's gonna go into a little bit of what I was saying earlier. The idea that Deadshot should be relegated to more lower tiered heroes. People who are maybe humans with talents and skills, or humans that do have superpowers, but on the lower scale of what those superpowers are. Deadshot should be an underground mercenary. Somebody who realizes that if Deadshot is coming after me, I might be screwed. This isn't going to be good. However, in saying this, I do think Deadshot needs to have a crack at some of those top dogs, at the very least once or twice. And what I mean by saying that is he should actually have a reputation of being able to have taken down at least one of those top tier heroes. And he didn't just take them down, he has killed them. But in this situation, that means one big character has to have died and isn't coming back. It would need to be a character that has connections, relationships, friendships with many of the higher up Justice League members. They're known almost worldwide. It would have to be a huge bounty that Deadshot collected and actually found a way to flat out kill this character. Even though Deadshot does go after smaller tiered characters, he does now have this reputation of never count him out, because if he was capable of taking down this top dog, what's to say he wouldn't be able to find a way to do it again on someone else, even though the chances are very, very slim. But there you go, unpopular opinions and hot takes on the character of Deadshot. So as per usual, if you didn't get the chance to post a comment on the community post forum, now is your chance to do so in the comments below. And also let me know some other characters you'd like to see unpopular opinions of, and I will put them on the list. That is all I have for you on this one, everyone. I hope you all enjoyed, and until next time, I will talk to you all very soon.